talk about the State of the Union. I mean, obviously, I talked about it a little bit on this program this week, but I want to get your take.
My take is, wow, where was the guy in 2009? There was a narrative. It was middle-class economics. So there was a message. There was an overlying narrative. Oh, my God, who does that? There were individual parts of that overlying narrative, as in, here's what middle-class economics is. Paid sick leave. We're the only country among the high-income nations that doesn't have this. So that is important. Raising wages, that is important, and some of the things that Obama has done. And overall, bringing the healthcare cost increases to the lowest level in terms of the increasing price in 50 years or whatever that is a great accomplishment. I'll give President Obama credit where it's due. I like that he was feisty. I like that he was, they clapped when he said he didn't have another election. He threw it back in their faces. This is the guy that I wanted in 2009. It doesn't mean everything was perfect. There were things left out of that speech. I think there could have been a little bit more on what happened in Ferguson and some of the difficulties we're having there. He didn't mention gun violence, which is something I care about, and that bothered me. So it's not. I'm not saying it's perfect. And obviously, he tried to frame within that whole narrative of helping workers the TPP, which is laughable. And is, well, I know that we didn't, in the past we didn't make sure that those labor safeguards and those environmental ones worked, but we're going to do it this time. This time will be different, It sounds like a right-winger arguing to, like McCain arguing to go to war again. You know what I mean? Well, this time we figured out all the bugs. So, I have a problem with that part of the speech. I disagree with it, and I think it was, it doesn't fit into the narrative. But everything else in terms of letting everybody know, where you stand, which is what he's been doing, which is why his approval rating is now 50%. If he could have done this, in August or September, right, where, there's been a narrative to what he's been doing lately, whether it's on climate change or whether it's on immigration, Cuba, which is standing up for people and respecting the will of what is a progressive majority as opposed to caving to either right-wing loons or the sort of centristy gobbledygook that comes out of D.C. And, that's what this speech represented to me overall. So overall, I give it high marks. As I said, there are a couple things in there, but there always will be a couple things you criticize. I mean, to me, it's by far the best State of the Union speech he's ever given. So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that largely, and I've spoken about how I'm not terribly happy about the TPP, and of course all this stuff that he's talking about. At least it's a narrative, and if we're going to judge it as if we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, just insofar as like I would rather him talk about this, even when it is obviously a lot of these initiatives can't actually happen. And won't even necessarily happen in 2016 when they may have a better chance. But I'm willing to, concede that I would rather him talk about them when they can't happen than not talk about them when they can't happen. But with that said, if we're going to judge him on that rhetoric, and I went through this on the segment we had with Charlie Pierce, which was on the better half of the other day. So a lot of free listeners have not heard this complaint of mine. Was that segment at the end of the speech where he says, we still may not agree on a woman's right to choose, but surely we can agree it's a good thing that teen pregnancies and abortions are nearing all-time lows.
That part was bad, because no, we can't agree on that.
Exactly. And he said the same thing about immigration. Passion still fine immigration, but we can all see something of ourselves in the striving young student. And
you're right. That undercut some of the rest of his message, because that was going back to when he even introduced it with that whole we're not a blue country or a red country, or how everybody is the same in these states. His famous speech in 2004, which sounded great, and I thought was a wonderful speech, because I didn't actually thought he believed it. I mean, I thought it was a great way to frame everything. Right. It's an uplifting speech. It's an important thing to say, but you have to know your opposition and know what the situation is that you're dealing with.
But it's also not. Look, he may know. See, here's the point: is that like he this still may be a tactic in his mind, okay? I mean, him saying that we can agree that no one benefits when a hardworking mom is snatched from her child in terms of immigration. He went on to say, we may go at it in campaign season, but surely we can agree on the right to vote is sacred. Okay. Not only can the Republicans not agree on that, it is part of their electoral strategy to make sure that the right to vote is not treated as if it was sacred, because that's why they're disenfranchising literally hundreds of thousands of people in certain states.
Yeah, the voting rights thing was utterly ridiculous. Like, surely we can agree that everyone should vote? No. That's, in fact, the exact opposite of the stated ideology if you follow a timeline from the post-Civil War, from what were then Southern Democrats and plutocrats right on through, who's become now, through the Southern strategy, has become the core of the Republican Party. Actually, exactly what they believe is that we should restrict the franchise as much as possible to white property-holding men. I mean, they've made that clear. Again and again, I agree with you. But to me, see, here's the difference, Sam, is that was a tactic back then. And I think it was something that, particularly as running as the first African American who might become president, I think it was a good one to sound themes of unity during the campaign. What my problem is he carried it into governing, where it doesn't work and it's a failure. And saying it during the State of the Union also, we're well past that. Nobody believes this anymore. It's almost like, really?
But it's
right.
also, it's detrimental. I mean, that's the thing, is that it is detrimental because this is why you don't drive voters out on off-year elections. Because if you simply say, hey, look, we all share some fundamental goals, and you state them, that that immigrants are human beings, that that we should not, women should have sovereignty over their own bodies. If you state that that's a fundamental goal, and it's what we're really haggling about is how to get there, you're not going to motivate those people in an off-year election.
I think that
who
undermines
don't realize
the rest of the
it's
speech.
not a fundamental shared goal.
No. That you're exactly right, and I forgot about that part somehow. I think those couple points there undermined the rest of the speech where he made it clear there were differences, which is, of course, everybody deserves to make a certain amount of money they can live on. If you think you can live on $15,000 a year and you vote against the minimum wage, try it. And that was making it clear, we believe this, you believe that. We believe what 70% of people who voted in, or something of that nature, who voted in states like, Alaska, Nebraska, South Dakota, and there was a fourth one, Arkansas, I believe. 70% of people who voted there voted on the minimum wage, wanted to raise it, or somewhere in that area, right? We believe what they believe. You were on that 30% side. That's where you stand. And that's the thing. I agree with you. The rest of that speech did that, and then he went back to the centrist gobbledygook, and it is detrimental because it was a good thing to say when he was trying to become president, when he was trying to get the nomination, and he was trying to frame things as, I'm the guy that wants to bring everybody together, which would make the other side look bad initially. But there's a point where you have to start saying, we're for this and you're for that, you're bad and we're good, and that was a long time ago.
And we should also say, hey, look, the bottom line is, in 2004, the Republican Party was at least the leadership. Let's remember, John McCain ran in 2008 and was still for immigration reform. There was, in 2007, the Voting Rights Act was unanimously reauthorized, and it has since been gutted, and the Republicans are doing nothing about it.
That's because racism is gone.
That's in 2004. There wasn't this notion that you would have. It was. The right for a woman to get an abortion was far less curtailed in 2004 than it was today. I mean,
and right now with what we're going to talk about today, what they've tried to do federally, but I can tell you it's going on in states, all over the country. I mean, they tried here in Ohio to pass this ridiculous heartbeat bill, which is clearly unconstitutional, so much so that even the national or the Ohio version of the National Right to Life opposed it, and about 10 right-wing Republicans didn't vote for it because these people who are right-wing loons have the good sense that if this goes to the court, they're going to lose, and that this is a clearly unconstitutional, but that's where they are. That's where they are. They want to try to pass these fetal heart. I mean, they're going throughout the country. So, no, clearly we don't all agree because these are people who still have this mindset that if we only ban abortion, then it will go away. That's still their mindset. That we need to punish women. Women shouldn't have the right to control their bodies. That we should lecture to them what they get to do and what they don't get to do, in not quite Saudi Arabian fashion, but not so much better. And we're going to bring our religious values into politics and cross that wall. That's what they believe. That they believe something either religiously, or they believe that women are sluts who have abortions, which is a lot of what I believe it is. And so we should all believe the same thing as them.